It's a new year, and that can mean only one thing. It's time for a new project car, starting with this Turn 14 distribution-supported abandoned STI. If you guys followed along with our Valvoline-sponsored engine build series on this engine, you'll know what this is all about. For those of you who've missed it, don't be that guy, go watch it now. But a quick summary is this is a version 7 JDM EJ20, stuff full of good stuff, including a stroker kit from JE and K1 Technologies. Lots of other work went into this with our buddies at NV Auto, so this is going to be a killer motor. It's going to make a whole bunch of jam and rev to the moon. But we needed to find a chassis to put it into. So as luck would have it, our friends at NV Auto had this GR STI sitting in their lot for a long time. It was basically abandoned by the owner. It had a fully built Cosworth engine in it, a very expensive build, and it grenaded. And he just decided he wanted it out of his life. And so NV said, hey, you guys looking for an STI? Perfect home for this engine. I think we might have a love match here. So we picked this car up very cheap, given the fact that it had a blown motor. And it needs a little bit of love. So maybe it's time for Pete to jump in here now and show you the details of what we're going to do with this thing.
First off, I am super stoked for this project because there are very few 2-liter STIs running around that originally had 2.5 liters in them. So I think we're trailblazing a path here. A lot of the USDM 2.5-liter guys may be thinking, what are you guys doing? But we definitely want a motor that revs to the moon. We want something different and cool, and to see what a 2-liter will do in this chassis. And as you can see, the motor is missing in here. So there was nothing here when we bought this car from NV Auto. The block was pretty much in shambles. So we do have a transmission. It is still at NV Auto. The guys borrowed it for something, so we will be getting that back. However, you can see it's a pretty clean chassis from the outside. Not a lot of rust at all, which is nice. Inside though, it's pretty dirty. There's a bunch of stuff going on that we're gonna have to clean up. There's rust in the battery terminal area that we'll have to take care of. And I think we're gonna have to replace some parts. So this car did come with a lot of cool stuff on it, including a front mount intercooler. And as you can see, this thing is sat outside. I think it was winter driven for a little bit. So the intercooler is like completely trashed. This would take days to fix all these fins. So we're actually going to change out a lot of the parts that we may find on this car. We're gonna lift this thing up in a moment, look underneath and to see the condition there. But I can tell you, inside the car also has some stuff that we're gonna get to. So let's look in there. This car came pretty much stock in terms of the interior, and I kind of like it that way. I mean, the STIs have always had a good knack for style and making everything kind of from a function standpoint. I love the steering wheel. I don't think we're gonna ever replace that. The shifter, I'm sure we'll get something that's a little bit cooler in that sense. But seat-wise, I find these seats are really well bolstered for a street track car that we're building. I don't think we're gonna replace them. However, you can see there is a little bit of cleaning that needs to be done on them, and more so, like, look at the carpeting in here. This is like salt, ugh,
salt
and
stains,
all of this. So we're gonna go through, I think in a future episode, just cleaning this car, making it kind of look good again, because it has been neglected. It's sat outside for a while, and that definitely doesn't help its cause. We did receive a bunch of goodies with the STI, and that includes a really cool skid plate, which I think we're gonna reuse. How neat is that, right? We're gonna make sure we protect that very expensive and awesome motor we built. Here's I think it's an under chassis brace from White Line, and more so a lot of stock parts that were in the trunk, starter, alternator, which I think we're gonna have to replace because this, just look how rusty it is. My goodness, and it's not gonna look so good on top of that sweet shiny motor we got. Also, look at the intercooler piping. Again, this is what happens when a car sits for a long time in a cold climate. Like, look at that, the rust there. Ugh. Oh good, we're gonna replace that as well. And moving on to something that at first I thought we were going to reuse, but the more we looked at it and the more we looked at the goals we wanted to get out of that 2-liter motor, we decided we're gonna go with a completely new turbo kit. This is what was on it. I'm not exactly sure what type of turbo kit it is, what brand it is, but it does run a Borg Warner SX turbo. I think this car made mid 400s in terms of power. But again, like when you start looking at this stuff, it's just been sitting around long enough that it is mainly cosmetic, but it would require a lot of work for us to clean. And again, we're gonna try out one of Garrett's new G25 turbos on this car to see how good it reacts with that 2-liter. And this is kind of the crazy thing I was looking at. I'm like, oh God, look at this wrap. It's still wet. Like this has been sitting around for a long time and this wrap is still moist. I can't get this off here. I'm trying hard.
It's like mummified.
Yeah. I'm trying hard to take this off, but like look at that. Holy smokes. Like the rust is serious here.
Yeah, it really is.
So
that has to go bye-bye.
that does have to go bye-bye. So with all that being said, I think it's time we put this car up on our quick jack and let's have a look underneath. I really want to show you the brake rotors because the one thing that is super trashed, I have not seen a brake rotor that looks like this.
Like any proper Subaru owner, this guy was driving this thing in the winter. This is obviously his winter wheel and tire setup. OZs with some Dunlops that are still in pretty good condition, but we're not gonna winter drive.
No, we're done.
Are we done?
No.
I don't know. I mean, this might be my winter beater instead of the Tundra P. Let's see how it all plays out. But in any
There's gonna
case,
be way too many nice parts on this
we're gonna
thing,
clean this
DP.
thing
You'll
up.
see.
Yeah, we're gonna clean this thing up. Starting with the rotors. Oh my God, look at those things. Those were DBA rotors that have turned into an experiment in oxidation. That is the most rusted rotor I've ever seen in my life.
And this car does not roll. Like those are seized onto the
Fully
brake pads right now.
Welded on there,
It's
yeah.
gonna be a fun job trying to remove that.
Yeah, well that'll be your job, Pete. I'm just here to play show and tell. I do like the fact that he's got like an aftermarket brake duct on here, which is pretty cool.
Although where's the actual ducting?
It's probably in a bin at NV Auto. We'll go find those later. But shocks, we thought they were KWs at first, but these are actually RCE coilovers, which use a KW shock, and then they put their own spring rates on them. They probably have them valved to like their specification. But we're going to send them to KW and have them rebuilt, revalved, cleaned up, put new springs on them. Probably the KWs are our specification on spring rates. I mean, man, the tie rods are rusted up, the end links are rusted up, the sway bar is a rusty mess. This is a very Canadian car right now, and we'd like to cure it of some of that. We're proud Canadians, but we're not proud of rust. So.
And we should also mention that these parts are probably a decade old.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
a lot of this stuff has been on this car for a long time, so it has seen a lot of winters. So this is kind of what to expect from a car that's been modified and had the same parts on it for a very, very long time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And out back, it's more of the same. It's just a bit of a rusty mess back there. So do we show them that, Peter? We just get down to the business of pulling this stuff off.
I think we just start taking this stuff off. I'm curious to see what it looks like when it's off the car. I've pulled the pins out of the caliper here, and normally you just slide the brake out, but it is like fully seized in here. Let's see if I'm gonna try to move it with the pry bar. It's kind of insane. Like I have not seen brakes that do not move. Look at this. Like the whole thing is like completely seized in here, DP.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know what we're gonna do to get that off, to be honest.
A lot of banging, I think, will help.
Just don't want to damage the caliper.
No, we're not. I don't think we're gonna damage the caliper. I can see a gap starting to form, so maybe I can hit it this way and see if it'll move downwards. No, so maybe what I'll do is I'm gonna take off the caliper bolts here.
Yeah.
And
see if we can tap the caliper off.
See if we can take the caliper off, because really these rotors and pads are fit for the pit. So we're not gonna be reusing them. So as long as I can get these guys off of here, we should be good to go.
Yeah, you can see the rest. The rotor's coming off the hub nicely, so that's something.
Well, see, this is what's gonna happen.
So now we gotta disconnect the brake.
What do you do here? Look how rotten this is. Like, yeah, I don't know if you guys can see in here, but look at that. Oh, it's got movement, guys. That's a good sign.
The rotor's moving a bit?
Yep. Got the dead blow hammer out here. Yes. looks like we've got movement. It's crazy. Look at this.
There's a reason why we called it the abandoned STI.
Oh,
everybody.
man.
That's what happens when you let your car sit for 6 months.
Oh my God. Still. No, back the hammer.
Come on.
Come on, Debo.
Come on.
You got it. We're close. Oh. Oh my God. Wow. Now can I get these? The pads are probably stuck in here. Like, look at their seized. I'm gonna have to hammer those guys out. Yeah. Woo. Wow. But
times.
I mean, has anybody seen a rotor that looks worse than that? Like, look at the grooves that the DBA rotors usually have are like pretty much filled in with rust.
It's crazy.
Oh my God. The pads are also so seized into the caliper. All right, here's one. Let's look at the damage. I mean, they're pretty worn out, actually.
Yeah, not a lot left there, is there?
So it's a good sign. We'll be replacing these.
Like that, we've got the coilovers off the car, and they're in used condition, I think it's fair to say. Like Pete said, the stainless bodies are still in really good shape, but the springs are pretty badly rusted. I mean, it's cosmetic, it just looks bad. I don't think it affects the functionality any, but it'd still be nice to put a fresh set of springs on it. And these top hats seem to be like a white line offset top hat. I'm not sure what the story is on those. You Subaru guys will know better than I do. So that may be something we reuse or we take off before we ship them down to KW. And frankly, I'm not sure what KW is going to do with them, given that they are race comp engineering stuff. Presumably they'll like refresh the valving so that that's all back into spec, and then we'll have a chat with them about whether or not they want to replace the springs or like the lower bushing on these guys here. The bushings look okay, but again, there's just so much corrosion. It's kind of...
Yeah, they look pretty clean, actually.
They're not terrible. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this whole rebuild process. So we'll package these up, ship them down to KW in California, and they'll work their magic on them, and we'll see what comes back in the box. As you guys saw, it was a bit of a job removing all the rotors and brakes, and what a mess. I don't think I've ever seen a car shed so much organic material during the removal of parts before. We swept up what must have been 10 pounds of rust and dirt. I'm not sure if this car was like parked in the desert or something. Like, what's all with the sand and dirt coming off it, people?
I don't know. It is an STI.
And it was parked in a parking lot for a long time, so it's seen some action. In any case, I think we're calling this episode a wrap, but stay tuned for lots more action as we rehabilitate this neglected GR. We're bringing it back to its glory, refreshing it with all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, we've got a ton of really cool parts coming down the train for this thing.
We sure do. Yeah, we got Stop Tech brakes coming and lots of cool stuff going in the engine bay and underneath. And I think it's tempting to like drop the rear subframe, drop the sway bars off of it, which are really rusty, and just kind of like get a good look at the car, give it a really good cleanup, look at what we really want to replace, refresh, powder coat, whatever needs to be done. We're going to make this thing like new again so that we can go rip some hot laps and rip around the street like it's 2008 all over again. All right, everyone, thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate the support, and if you want to help us refresh this car and our other projects, feel free to visit us over on Patreon, where you can donate a few bucks to help us out. And if you want some swag, including this new hoodie and this new colorway, check us out at speedacademy.shop.